Have you ever found yourself lying awake at 3 a.m., replaying a conversation that hasn't even happened yet? Have you ever rehearsed your own rejection so many times that by the time you face the real moment, you're already defeated before you even speak? Maybe you recognize this pattern. Before every job interview, every date, every important conversation, you spend hours, sometimes days, mentally preparing for disaster. You imagine every possible way things could go wrong, every humiliating scenario, every moment where you might be exposed as not good enough. And here's what nobody talks about. This mental rehearsal isn't protecting you, it's destroying you. You're living more in these imagined futures of failure than in your actual present moment. You've become a hostage to scenarios that exist only in your mind. And this constant what-if paralysis is stealing your life, one avoided opportunity at a time. But what if I told you that the solution isn't to stop imagining the worst? What if the key to freedom is actually to imagine it more completely, more honestly, and with a different purpose entirely? This might sound counterintuitive, but one of the most profound philosophers of the 20th century discovered that our fear of the worst-case scenario is actually fear of something much deeper. And once you understand what you're really afraid of, everything changes. If you've made it this far, it's not by chance. This video is for you who are exhausted from living in constant anticipation of disaster. It's for you who feel like you're always preparing for battles that may never come, while missing the life that's happening right now. I want to show you that this doesn't have to be your reality, but the path forward requires something most people aren't willing to face. Let's begin. You believe that by imagining every possible disaster, you're preparing yourself. You think that by mentally rehearsing rejection, humiliation, and failure, you're somehow building armor against these experiences. But here's what's actually happening. You're not preparing for these scenarios, you're trying to control them. And this attempt at control is what's torturing you. What torments you is not the future rejection that might happen. It's the 1,000 rejections you're experiencing right now in your mind, each one a desperate attempt to script a reality you cannot script. You're not living in anticipation of pain. You are the pain right now in this present moment. But why? Why do we torture ourselves this way? Martin Heidegger, one of the most radical thinkers about human existence, discovered something that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. He realized that underneath all our anxiety, all our mental rehearsals, all our desperate attempts to control outcomes, lies one fundamental terror: the recognition that we are temporary, that everything we care about, including ourselves, will end. He called this recognition being toward death, not because he was obsessed with morbidity, but because he saw that most human suffering comes from our refusal to accept our own finitude. We create elaborate mental scenarios, not to prepare for specific rejections, but to avoid facing the ultimate rejection, that life itself will reject us, eventually, completely, and permanently. But here's where it gets interesting. Heidegger discovered that this very recognition, the one we're so afraid of, is actually the key to authentic living. Not because death is good, but because accepting our mortality strips away everything false and reveals what actually matters. So how does this solve your 3 a.m. anxiety spirals? Here's the radical shift. Instead of trying to mentally rehearse your way out of specific disasters, you're going to do something much more honest. You're going to face the disaster that's underneath all the other disasters. The next time you find yourself imagining that job interview going wrong, that relationship ending, that project failing, don't try to stop the thoughts. Instead, ask yourself, what am I really afraid of here? Keep asking until you get to the bottom. Usually, it's not really about the job, the relationship, or the project. It's about what these failures represent. Evidence that you're not permanent, not guaranteed, not in control of your own story. And here's what happens when you stop running from this truth. The specific fears lose their power over you. When you accept that everything is temporary, including your own life, rejection becomes simply information rather than catastrophe. Failure becomes part of the human experience rather than evidence of your inadequacy. This isn't about becoming pessimistic or nihilistic. It's about becoming real. When you stop pretending you can control outcomes, you finally become free to focus on what you actually can control, how you show up in this moment. Heidegger called this shift authentic existence. Instead of living in what he termed idle chatter, the constant mental noise of planning and worrying and rehearsing, you begin to live in what he called authentic temporality, which is just a fancy way of saying you become present to your actual life instead of your imagined futures. This is why some people can walk into any situation with genuine confidence, while others are paralyzed by possibilities. It's not because they've mentally rehearsed more effectively. It's because they've accepted something you're still fighting, that uncertainty isn't a problem to be solved. It's the condition in which all life occurs. When you truly accept this, something extraordinary happens. You stop wasting energy trying to guarantee outcomes and start investing that energy in being authentic. You stop performing for an audience that might reject you and start expressing who you actually are. You stop managing your image and start living your life. The practical application is this. The next time you catch yourself in an anxiety spiral about some future scenario, use it as a doorway. Let yourself imagine the worst case completely. But don't stop at the surface disaster. Go deeper. What would it mean if this actually happened? What would it mean about you, about life, about your place in the world? Keep going until you hit the bedrock fear that you are not guaranteed anything, that everything you love is temporary, that you have no ultimate security. And then, instead of running from this recognition, sit with it, feel it completely. This is what Heidegger called authentic anxiety, not the neurotic worry about specific outcomes, but the profound recognition of our own finitude. And paradoxically, this anxiety, when fully felt, becomes the foundation of authentic courage. Because when you've truly faced the fact that everything is temporary, everything else becomes workable. Rejection can't destroy you because you've already accepted destruction as part of existence. Failure can't define you because you've already accepted that all definitions are temporary. Other people's opinions can't control you because you've accepted that all control is ultimately illusory. This is how imagining the worst-case scenario sets you free. Not by helping you prepare for disasters, but by helping you face the disaster that underlies all other disasters. The fact that you are mortal, finite, and fundamentally uncertain. And in that acceptance, you discover something most people never find. The freedom to be authentic rather than strategic, present rather than projected, real rather than managed. If this resonates with you, if you're ready to stop running from your own finitude and start living from it, write in the comments, "I choose reality over rehearsal." Let's start a conversation about what it means to live authentically in an uncertain world. And remember, the next video will explore how this philosophical shift translates into practical changes in how you approach relationships, work, and creativity. Because understanding the concept is just the beginning. Living it is where transformation actually happens. See you there.